Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 9, Episode 79. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for tuning in this Monday, Steelers Nation. Dave played the Pro Bowl yesterday, most meaningless game of all, and of course, a Steeler gets hurt in it. Just the way it goes, isn't it?
Yeah, and this, people wonder why we sit and watch the Pro Bowl every year, and I think I unfortunately brought this up the other day in case there's interviews or any type of injuries, and unfortunately we had the latter of that with JuJu. I think it was in the second quarter there. Andrew Luck, kind of a, scramble drill, if you will, to the outside. He connected with JuJu on the right side of the field on the short pass. He was taken to the ground. It looked pretty innocent. JuJu gets up, comes limping off the field, and then having the left knee looked at on the sideline there by the AFC team trainers there. He did not return to the game later, about 30 minutes or 20 minutes after injuring that. It was termed a knee contusion, questionable to return. He obviously didn't. I got a slowed down picture of that or animated GIF of that on the site of the replay. It looks fairly innocent. Our very own Melanie Friedlander at Girl Surgeon has chimed in on it. She says it doesn't look worrisome for ligament damage, probably just a bone bruise. So take that for what it's worth there. And I know the last kind of little report tidbit on it was from Mark Long, who writes for the AP. He's he is their South Florida Associated Press writer. He had at the end of his AP write-up on the game that JuJu Smith-Schuster was limping on the way to the bus and declined comment. So that's kind of where we're at on that. Once again, it didn't look serious from what I could tell, but you never know about these things.
I'm going to be the old man who yells at Cloud here. Why are they still playing the Pro Bowl? I mean, I know that it does get views and it does get ratings, but can't they put something else football-related on, some other version of a Pro Bowl event? It's still going to get views. I mean, if the idea is anything you put on, even tangentially, related to the NFL gets clicks and people watch, and then you can put something else on and people are still going to watch too.
Yeah, it's just because it makes money, and we've talked about this for years now. I mean, if you watch the game, which I assume you watch some of it, there's not much. I mean, there's more thudding in it than there is tackling in it. I didn't like the way that they would let the that hook and ladder kind of stuff go. I mean, if you're gonna make it kind of two-hand touch for the rest of the stuff, then that should be two-hand touch. If you go back and watch that Marquise Pouncey, I was worried he almost tore up his twisted an ankle or tore up a knee on that play with him trying to change direction on that wet field there. So, look, I mean, we complain about this game every year, yet we watch it. Right? So, are they going to do anything about it? No, probably not anytime in the near future. I mean, will we get more into these guys wearing flags? I don't think so. I think you're just going to have to live with it the way it is right now.
I guess. I mean, I don't expect them to make any sort of change, even though I would personally like to. But it just seems to be like just the most pointless endeavor. But I like you said, people do watch it. I think someone said it gets higher ratings than the Stanley Cup Finals. It just shows the big machine that is football and why it is so untouchable. So,
and nobody ever admits to watching it except me.
I have a buddy that loves the Pro Bowl. I've never understood that. So it's you and him.
The thing is too. I mean, these guys can get just hurt just as easy doing the skills competitions. And remember, well, you probably weren't old enough at the time, but Robert Edwards years ago tore up his knee on the beach. Something they were doing in Hawaii ahead of the Pro Bowl there. So, I mean, these guys can get hurt doing any of these various activities, not just playing in the game. Obviously, it's magnified when something happens during the game, such as what happened to JuJu, and I think Chargers wide receiver Keenan Allen also left the game with a bruised knee as well. But I mean, it's just a risk that you take when you play in this game, and I know GMs and head coaches probably kind of grit their teeth and grimace a little bit when players go play in this, but it is what it is, as Mike Tomlin would say.
I usually like to hide the AB portion of our podcast towards the end of things, but since we're on Steelers receivers and a little bit of intrigue there, let's get the AB stuff out of the way. Dave, you've written about it more than I have, but what anything really stuck out to you from this weekend?
No, other than, look, it's just going to be a continuing of us talking about probably there's not much development except this minor development kind of thing. The networks, right, the major media will kind of twist any little thing into a news nugget that's not necessarily news. If we don't write about it, then people say, well, why didn't you write about it? If we do write about it, then people say, why did you write about it? So it's just, I mean, look, we cover the Steelers. We try to cover every little thing that happens. Ian Rappaport came out with a couple of tweets on Sunday before the Pro Bowl. Not very revealing, but just he's hearing things right now. While a fresh start is now the preferred outcome, I don't believe how he really knows that. The team has not yet given Brown and his agent permission to facilitate a trade. It's in the team's hands. That's not really, I don't think, breaking news or surprising either. Sounds more. To me, that sounds more speculatory news than anything. He goes on to write, the Steelers are exploring trade options. I suppose that's not out of the realm at this point if AB has not, made tremendous or not called Art Rooney II. But he goes on to say Brown hasn't closed the door on returning. Oh, that's good to know. He's maintained a steady dialogue with some in the organization he's close with. To express that sentiment still, he should draw significant interest on the market. A couple of fancy tweets, a way of saying that Antonio Brown may or may not be traded. And I guess it may or may not snow where you are today.
A lot of word salad there, but I guess if there's any sort of silver lining, any bit of optimism that AB, I guess, to some degree would be willing to come back. Obviously, we know the terms that have to happen. He's got to communicate with the team. I wonder who he's talking to. I guess it's a positive sign, and this is damning with faint praise, but I guess it is a positive sign that he's talking to somebody. I don't know who that somebody would be. I'm trying to figure out who his best friends are in that locker, maybe like an Eli Rogers or someone, but he's got to talk to the head honchos before there's any chance he stays a Steeler.
With his continuing actions on social media and all, I mean, the whole repost. I mean, he's trolling with great. Nobody can troll a fan base like he can right now.
He's as good a troll as he is a receiver.
Right, exactly. At some point, I mean. What is the end game there? He can't, just as he can't throw the football to himself, he can't trade himself. I mean, to me, more than anything, he might be hurting his trade value by being as active as he is on social media and favoriting everything and how many times a day do you get somebody send you something on the Twitter machine that says, look what AB liked today,
I don't think it hurts his trade value though.
Okay, well, I mean, he's still what is the upside of him doing all this other than, I guess, having people talk about him every day? To me, I mean, that's enough. Jeez, we get it. You obviously think that you might want a friend. Has anything that's happened in the last 2 to 3 weeks changed your mind about what the Steelers should or shouldn't do with him, or what the ultimate outcome of this will be?
I mean, not really. Like I said before, unless he talks with the team and has an honest, healthy conversation with Art Rooney and Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin, he's gone. And I guess it's been furthered and hardened because the fact that he hasn't spoken with him and the things that Art Rooney said in recent weeks about how they've tried to communicate with him and he hasn't returned any phone calls. But beyond that, I mean, no, nothing's really changed in my mind.
I mean, to me, he's just being an ass.
Yes.
You know,
and there is no end game here. I think you asked the question, what's the point? I mean, trolls don't have a point. They're just there to troll and to stir the pot.
Right, but do you really want, for a team, other than, if you're really wanting to return to a team and work things out, wouldn't you think that kind of stuff, would stop?
Sure, and that's why I wrote a couple weeks ago that AB has no intentions on fixing this. He might be okay with returning to the Steelers, but he's not going to actively do anything to repair that bridge.
And then then we should expect other things to happen when and if he does return.
Well, if he doesn't talk to the team, he's going to get traded.
I'm saying if there's some sort of, if something happens and he stays with the team in 2019, we're going to have more episodes of something.
Probably. Ideally it'd be lessened by talking with the team and having the conversation and working out the problems that you're going through. But obviously stuff could pop up again.
Now, Jeremy Fowler also had this report, I guess it was on Friday afternoon. We hit on it briefly, I think. But, now that you've had time to digest that and all and talking about how the former players thought that Mike Tomlin had let it reach this level and all, how does any of this change at this point? How much of this is blame? At some point, the players got to have most of the blame, right? Because, what is the alternative that thing could have gotten to with Tomlin? And I'm not trying to absolve Tomlin from all this, but these are grown-ass men, right? Mm-hmm. These guys have to make their own decisions. And outside of, supposedly there's been a fine system and all like that. Let's face it, a fine system does not faze a guy like AB. Embarrassing him in front of the rest of the team doesn't seem to faze AB all that much. The only thing that you can do to maybe try to get through some of these players is actually sit them down in games and maybe suspend them or something like that. But when you do that, how fair is it to the rest of the team that relies on this guy to help win, that knows that this guy can win games? And where is the line that coaches need to draw, to make sure that there's not the favoritisms or whatnot?
Well, that's a very difficult question, and I don't think it's black and white. I think it's varying shades of gray. I'm not super interested in assigning blame in terms of, 80% versus 10% versus 10%. I think there's blame to go all around. I'm with you that I think it largely falls with the player himself, but I don't think Tomlin and Roethlisberger are blameless either. Now, what could Tomlin have done? It's easy to say in hindsight. There were reports that I think AB and Eli Rogers were both late to a meeting one day, and players only recall Eli getting fined. Now, is that true? I don't know. But if AB wasn't getting fined, I know it's not going to change a whole lot. But just in the principle of the matter, if you don't fine AB but you fine Eli, then that's a problem. And that's something I would certainly take issue with if I was someone in that locker room. So I understand that. But again, I'm not too interested in playing the blame game. I'm more interested in, is this fixable? And if so, how do you fix it?
And how do you fix it?
Like I said, it comes down to having AB needing to have the incentive and willingness to talk to the team, air out grievances. I said before, I don't think AB has to go on this apology tour to the Rooneys and Tomlin and Colbert and just say, I'm sorry. I think he can be honest and express his frustrations and find a way to avoid this stuff and make sure that AB feels like he has a voice in that locker room. So that's how you go about fixing it. But like I said, AB is fine with just sitting at home and going on vacation and not talking to the team.
This just all seems like a pile of mess right now.
It's been that way since the season ended.
And like I said, I obviously I have enjoyed Antonio and watching him play and what he does on the field, but it's just hard to fathom at this point of him being any different of a player behind closed doors than he's been in the past. Mm-hmm. And regardless of what he tells the team that he's going to do, if there is some sort of reconciliation, I think, if he stays, I think at some point, more than once during the 2019 season, there's going to be more of this, and more of this drama. Excuse me. And if that's the case, man, you got to cut the cord on him. Is my view on it.
Well, I mean, certainly that's possible that something happens again, but also I think you have to understand that, if AB returns, then that probably means there was that honest, difficult conversation between the front office and AB, and hopefully that would get out in front and help mitigate any future problems by whatever system they come up with and whatever things they talk about during the offseason to try to improve the relationship and improve the issues that have popped up time and time again.
I'm not very optimistic about it on either way right now.
Sure. No, me neither. Like I said before, AB has no intention on fixing this, and if he doesn't, then I think he's as good as gone.
And then, of course, if you deal away a guy like that, with what he offers you on the field, the offense will suffer to some degree.
To a large degree.
To what that degree is, they'll have to figure it out there. But it just, man, and we got at least 6 more weeks of it. Some are saying that that the Steelers are getting lowballed until they have to pay that $2.5 million roster bonus, this, that, and the other. I suppose that this thing doesn't have to come to a head by then. But by the draft, obviously, you would think. I mean. That some decision will be made about whether or not to deal him, because obviously you'd want the draft picks at that point to put into use this year with AB. We got 6 weeks until the start of the new league year, and we're going to be talking about this for the next 6 weeks, like it or not.
I think by the combine, things really start to heat up. That's generally the time where the trade talks really kind of get into motion league-wide, everybody coming together, and the combine kind of being a lower-key event than the Senior Bowl in the sense of there's a little less going on. So I think combine talk is when you'll start hearing the trade rumors really start to fly, but we'll keep it posted. But if the team does trade Antonio Brown, they'll certainly have a good chance of trying to replace him in the draft, and we watched this week's Senior Bowl, North 134-24, with some good receiver prospects. And the guy we talked about several times last week, Terry McLaurin from Ohio State, had a really nice performance, 4 catches, 53 yards, a couple nearly spectacular plays on some poorly thrown balls that he almost made. So that's certainly one name that I think Steeler fans should become at least familiar with, and there's a potential for Terry McLaurin to become a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Yeah, we had an emailer or two write us about him. We asked why he didn't play that much, and it seems to be they had a large stable of receivers over there for starters, and a lot of them, the ability to go deep and all. So there were some good explanations sent to us about why he only caught 75 passes during his career there. Look, he looks like a guy that could be I don't know what you think, 3rd, 4th round guy. I don't think he's a guy that climbs up there now. If he goes to the combine and runs 4.3 or as fast as many people think that he might, maybe he does climb into the 2nd round there. But with what he does, also they sent me a couple of clips on special teams and his ability to work as a gunner. He's got my vote. I like the way he runs routes. If you slow down some of his work from some of them practice reps on Twitter and from the Senior Bowl coverage and all, looks like he's got that end of it. He obviously can get down the field as well. So yeah, I'm on board with him. Another kid that caught my eye that I knew nothing about coming into this weekend was a North Carolina. Where was he? The North Carolina State receiver, Jacoby Myers. I really admired some of his footwork in that game. 6'1" and 3/4, 196 pounds with him. Obviously, we talked about Seals out of West Virginia. I think somebody's going to get a nice receiver there in the later rounds with him. Hunter Renfrow continue to have a good week. Very undersized kid out of Clemson, 5'10" and 3/8, 175 pounds. Kind of you hate to use a Ryan Switzer or whatnot comparison, but kind of a jitterbug kind of receiver there, right?
Yeah, I think he's a little better receiver than Switzer. I think he'll obviously get the Edelman-Wilker comparisons. That's a little too stereotypical and too strong for my taste, but he's a good. He played well, had that great catch downfield in that one scramble drill.
Deebo Samuel is probably going to be one of the top, 3 or 4 wide receivers taken in this draft?
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, he didn't have a big game statistically, but I thought he had a great week overall in practice.
And I'm trying to look at some of the who's the long kid?
I like Gary Jennings from West Virginia. He had that long catch and good size, local kid. I think he could be an option.
And who was the small school kid?
Isabella and Hart, or Doss too.
Doss, yeah, Doss is another interesting guy going to be interesting. Keelan Doss out of Cal Davis is going to be interesting to go through the combine and all like that. Small school kid. But yeah, those guys caught my eye. The tight end out of LSU, I thought did some good things.
Yeah, what do you like about him?
Some blocking, he showed some nice blocking ability in there. Now he played, I think, especially in that goal line series there. I like some of the work he did around there, and he showed that he has some hands later on in the game as well too. And this is a guy, of course, the Steelers talked with during the week. What was it? How do you pronounce his first name?
Foster.
Is it Foster Monroe or
Morrow? Yep, Foster Morrow.
Morrow, right. He is a guy that I think you could see the Steelers have interest in like the, 5th, 6th round, something along those lines. The offensive lineman out of USC, boy, Igado, really looked good. Gonna probably be one of the top left tackles in this draft as well too. He really flowed well out to the second level.
Yeah, I think he's got the look and the feel and the feet of a future left tackle in this league.
What about some of the defensive backs in this game?
Again, some of the guys I talked about during the week, Amon Marshall from USC continues to impress me. I like Lonnie Johnson from Kentucky. Kentucky's got a lot of prospects this year. Mike Edwards, who I profiled over the weekend, is somebody I could see as a day 3 guy. Definitely a core special teamer type, probably more of a box strong safety, so maybe not the best fit for Pittsburgh, potentially in that dimebacker role, but somebody that I think is a well-rounded game, and I just love to kind of watch the intensity that he plays it with. But yeah, Lonnie Johnson's got size, and he can hit that physical bump and run type corner is always alluring. And then Nasir Adderley from Delaware. I know the Steelers don't generally dip into that small school level, but Adderley's a versatile guy, probably best in space as that center fielder. Had, I think, a pick in the game. So that's a guy that if the Steelers go small school again, they want to find some playmakers in the secondary. Nasir Adderley might be your guy.
Rock Ya-Sin, there was a lot of talk about him this past week out of Temple. I went and pulled some clips on him and watched some of his tape. Does he go into the combine as maybe the most overrated corner?
You didn't like what you saw?
I mean, I like what I saw, but it's just there's not a lot of it.
What do you mean?
His good is good. There's just not a lot of overall production there.
Was that just because he wasn't targeted, you don't think? Or
I saw plenty of it. He has lapses, I think, and plus he's a 1-year production guy at Temple. Before that, he was at Presbyterian.
I think so.
Just overall, just not a lot to see as far as production goes on tape.
Okay, I mean that's fair. I think he just had a good week. I don't know how highly people are rated him, so I don't know. I think saying he's overrated might be a little too much. I think people just saw he had some good battles with Deebo Samuel, who was one of the better receivers in Mobile. And I think guys just like the competitive nature at the position.
There was I had in my notes the Texas corner, rough week. And I'm trying to find his name here on my notes. Was it Chris Boyd?
I don't have it up right now.
Yeah, Chris Boyd. Boy, rough week and a rough game during the Senior Bowl too. The Saunders kid that we talked about, the small school kid, had him a nice sack in that game.
Yep, and I like Greg Gaines from Washington. He might be a little too rich for the Steelers in terms of where he'll go, but as a dominant interior guy, I think he's impressive. And I profiled Dalen Mack from an A&M, that I think could be a 4th-round pick.
Bugs, I have something coming up on Bugs out of Alabama for later today. I have all of his sacks and all of his tackles for loss during his 2 seasons at Alabama. He is going to be an interesting prospect. He's probably going to be a third, fourth, fifth round guy. A little bit, definitely came in a lot shorter than what Alabama had listed him at. I think he came in at 6'2" and 5'8", 295. But a guy that can play up and down. I think we talked about him the other day as well too on the podcast. If you're looking for a guy though that could probably help clog up the middle and play, still be every down, but not really have that prototypical 5-tech, 6 foot, almost 6'5", 318 pounds. If you're looking for a kind of a prototypical size guy that can do everything on the Steelers offensive line, maybe it's him. Some impressive tape when it comes to him. The other guy that I wanted to talk about was the Texas Christian edge, Ben Banagoo. Now, I watched a lot of tape on him Friday night. Put his sack compilation breakdown up on SteelersDepot.com, and then even watched 2 other games on top of it to see what else he could do. This is a very interesting kid, and of all the edge rushers at this year's Senior Bowl that check a lot of boxes other than maybe say age, he's got it. A nice sack tape film. Tape reel there. If you throw on the game against Baylor last year, that will give you a good reflection of what exactly kind of player he is. Good against the run. He does have some lapses where he reads something and he'll get caught inside as far as setting the edge goes, gets himself out of positions. But when he's in position to set the edge, he does a good job at that. He did not drop a lot in the games that I watched, but he did drop some. He played on his feet quite a bit. He looks a little clunky doing it. He's definitely going to be one of those guys that they hold. When it'll be interesting to see if they work him out with the defensive ends or the linebackers. One would think that they're going to work him out with the defensive ends and then have the small group of those guys go through those linebacker drills where they have to drop in coverage and flip their hips and all like that. So it's going to be interesting to watch Banner go through that. I like the way he uses those long arms, too, in shedding blockers and getting off blocks and stopping a run. Once again, like I said, if you watch the Baylor game from last year, that's going to be probably the best tape to give you an idea of what Banagoo can and can't do. He stunts real well on kind of those 3-man games inside. On top of that, a little bit older than probably what you look for, but definitely a mid-round guy to take a look at that I dug into this week.
So that's what you're thinking, kind of a 4th, 5th round pick?
Yeah, 3rd, 4th, 5th, right around him. It's so hard to get round specific with some of these guys. Maybe 4th.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I bet he'll probably work with the DNs, and then when they do some of the drills where the guys have to drop, he'll work with that group as well, because I'm sure there'll be teams that are interested in him as a 4-3 end, and definitely as a 3-4 outside linebacker. Yeah, I like this tape. I mean, from the Senior Bowl, at least you watched more than I did during the college season. But a guy with hand use, with bend, with an overall get off, and looks fluid, and so you think he can drop into coverage? I know you said he didn't do it a lot, but you think he has the fluidity and showed a little bit of it on tape?
It's hard to tell because he just did it so little.
Well, just his overall skill set, his fluidity and his hips, you think he just is capable of dropping?
He's not uber athletic.
Okay.
I mean, there is a little bend there. He looks a little bit kind of stiff, if you will.
So you don't think he might be able to drop that well then?
It's going to be interesting to see. There's just not a lot of it on tape to see. That's why I say during the combine it'll be interesting to see how he looks in those drills.
Right. All right.
And you know how his cone times do and all like that, short shuttle and all like that. See how he tests. I kind of view him as not uber sparky. I'll put it to you that way, but we'll see.
Okay, yeah, that three cone time is super critical. If you get under 7 seconds, then you're somebody that's doing well. Last thing for me in the Senior Bowl to recap that, the running back position. I think the Steelers could have interest in the back. Somewhere later on day 3. I think Dexter Williams from ND showed some explosion, and then Wes Hale was the local kid from Slippery Rock, left with an ankle injury, unfortunately, on a tackle near the goal line. But a guy that has size, some power, and a little bit more juice than you would expect from a guy of his stature.
Yeah, Dexter Williams, I have quite a few notes from the practices as well, too. Really looks like he's able to stick his foot in the ground and get going the other direction real quick. Nice burst. Boy, once he gets the ball and going the direction that he wants to, he gets right through that hole in a hurry there. I'm trying to see if there's anybody else. Did any of the other tight ends really stick out to you at all?
No, not really.
Dax Raymond?
The Boston College tight end, I thought had a decent week. There were some poor passes thrown his way. But no, it's tough for the tight ends to stick out because there's so much about chemistry with the quarterback, and it's just a tough environment to be in.
None of the quarterbacks looked great.
Block was okay. He was the best. I think the rest were hot garbage mostly. Tyree Jackson, I think you saw some of the upside. He's a high variance guy. Really, honestly, it's probably a lock. He's going to be a first-round pick. Daniel Jones will probably go in the first, but I'm not a fan of him. The only other quarterback that interested me, like I said, was really Tyree Jackson, maybe a little bit of Will Grier.
And as we said, there's probably going to be about at least 2 or 3 guys of these guys that played in the game or participated in the events in Mobile going to wind up being Steelers. 2 to 3 probably. Was there any guy on the that you saw that you thought maybe the Steelers would go first round here?
From this group?
Right, from this year's Senior Bowl group.
Not so much. Yeah, I'd have to look at it maybe a little more thoroughly, but nah, I mean, it's even the secondary guys I like, you're not going to consider those guys first rounders.
Yeah, me either. That's why I tend to think that we're going to be dealing with a underclassman again as far as the first-round draft pick this year.
And that's what history tells us anyway, so that's not anything new. All right, Dave, you had an interesting, there was a couple tweets that came around about kind of coverage percentages this year that was really interesting, especially for Pittsburgh, to kind of show the transition and the difference from the old Dick LeBeau cover 3 style to a new age Steelers defense and a new blend. So why don't you tell us about some of the research that was done?
Yeah, and once again, a lot of this comes off of the what do they call it on NFL.com? The
Next Gen Stats?
Next Gen Stats, right. Keegan Abdu is one that posted some of the screenshots per the Sports Info SIS, and I think he also works for Next Gen Stats as well, too. Talking about the man coverage tendencies for each defense this season, I think a lot of these were percent of all attempts faced in man coverage by defense through week 16, and the Steelers, it looks like third overall at, can you read that number, 52.2% on there, and the zone coverage tendencies, which is understandingly a reciprocal of the man tendencies, the Steelers are way down in there. It looks like the 5th least at, I think it's 38.4%. And then another way to group coverages here was the middle of the field closed versus middle of the field open. Obviously, middle of the field closed coverages would be more of cover 1, cover 3, and then the open tendencies would be cover 2, 2-man quarters, cover 6, and of course cover 2 zone. But when you look at those tendencies there, the Steelers in middle of the field closed were right near the middle of the group there at 54.7%. And when you look at middle of the field open, they were kind of near the top in least amount of that at 35.9%. So, definitely a shift of what we've seen during the Dick LeBeau days. So those of you that have been wanting more man coverage schemes and more of, I guess, middle of the field kind of open coverages, or middle of the field closed coverages, you're getting that.
Yeah, I don't think the close and open is as significant, other than that, close might, signal sometimes more man coverage, but the fact that you're just seeing more man overall, which was needed. That's the way the league's going. You need guys that can cover. The old days of, keep everything in front, spot drop, zone coverage, play cover three, just doesn't really work anymore. I mean, maybe against lower tier quarterbacks it can and force those guys to go on 10 to 12 play drives, but when you're facing even average to certainly above average and the elite guys like Tom Brady, they'll just take what you're giving them, and they have no problem just checking it down for 5 yards at a time, getting yacked, and then finally hitting you for that one big play. So that's the way the league is gone. Zone coverage is so difficult to play. You got to at least be powder matching and carrying receivers if you are going to play zone. Again, that traditional spot drop zone is just gone out the window. You'll get toasted by half the league now. So it is good to see that trend, and a trend I'm sure that will continue.
We need to see more pattern matching.
Yep, really, just for me, whenever teams run four verts, just make sure you're covering that seam and not putting the safety in conflict.
And we saw again the Saints run that concept against the Steelers too, and it get handled a lot differently on that third and long in that game against the Rams the other week.
Yeah. So I'm glad it's continuing to go in that direction. But again, now that you're running more man coverage, you got to have the personnel to do it, and that's why that cornerback position really needs to be upgraded, because it's tough to run 60% man coverage all year if Cody Sensabaugh is your dude.
All right, a couple more draft profiles going up. Josh Carney had Ja'Kai Polite out of Florida, who we've already talked about quite a bit so far. I don't know where these people keep coming up with these Jarvis Jones comparisons on him, or saying he's just like Jarvis Jones.
I guess it's a height build thing. I'm getting into it on Twitter too. I got some people telling me he's a project. Polite is because he's undersized. I don't know how that meshes. I don't know how size equates to being a project or not.
We talked a little bit about the size thing the other day on the podcast there. I mean, the tape, the tape's good on this kid, you know. Did you learn anything? Have you learned anything more about him since last time we talked?
No, I think it's mostly the same. I mean, yeah, his build isn't the best. He's 6'2", 242. I mean, we'll see what he officially weighs in at the combine. But there's plenty of success stories of guys that are generally undersized that can still play. And we know the Steelers, went big with Bud Dupree and it didn't work out, and they went small with Jarvis and it didn't work out. So forget about the size. Look at the tape. Look if the guy can play. I think the guy's got the get up. I think he's got the hand use. I think he's got the varied approach to winning as a pass rusher, which is why Jarvis and Bud struggled so much. They didn't have multiple ways, really two strong ways to win as a pass rusher. So yeah, I think it's a guy that I'm impressed by, and a guy that like I said on Friday's show, I think will be in the mix at pick 20.
Yeah, we gotta, we'll obviously watch when the Tomlin and Colbert start making their rounds to the pro days and all. We would think that Florida's going to be on that list. It usually is every year, but it will be surprising if it's not. I mean, he checks. We'll dig a little bit. I want to watch him a little bit more against the run and make sure he can stand up in that area there. And I guess Josh got into that a little bit as well too. But there's not a lot not to like about the kid. Does he have any character flags associated with him that you've read?
No, but I'd have to dig into that stuff more. I haven't yet.
I haven't seen anything on him to that point as well either. All right, what else do we have? What about a few of the guys that you profiled here?
Yeah, Dalen Mack, like I said, when we talked Senior Bowl, I think that's an interesting guy. He's a fourth-round nose tackle. I'm watching one guy right now, Brian Burns, an edge from Florida State. I'm only a couple games in, and I haven't come away impressed yet. So we'll see how that finishes out. I know that Josh has talked about Jalen Ferguson. That report will go up probably tomorrow morning, I'm guessing. So we'll learn some more about him as one of the top edge guys as well. I think that's mostly it for me. Like I said, Mike Edwards from Kentucky, I think is a box strong safety, but I think he's got a high floor kind of guy. I think worse, he's a core special teamer with the potential to be that box strong safety kind of guy.
All right. Let's see which direction now.
Well,
you are getting into it with somebody on Twitter here.
Well, somebody's just saying because he's undersized that you can't take him, or that he's a project, and to just look at just a height weight thing and to make an assumption about the guy as a whole, as his whole value. I mean, that's just insanity. And then the argument is, You know, the guy's saying this is just one guy, and I don't know, I'm getting in the weeds with it, but he's saying, you know, has he ever rushed NFL tackles before? Well, any of these guys rush NFL tackles before? If that's your bar, then you aren't drafting anybody. You know, so it's just, you know, it's the low-hanging fruit, and like I said, officially marks draft season whenever we're getting Jarvis Jones' name said again. That's kind of ringing the bell that it's draft season when you see Jarvis Jones' name on Twitter.
All right, what direction now?
Yeah, I had my mailbag last week, which, you know, I do every Thursday, and it's really cool to see people come out consistently and ask questions, and I'm appreciative of that. But there was one really interesting question that kind of ended the day, and it's from our buddy Darth Blunt, who asked me 5 questions, and he just wanted one-word answers. Now we can expand on it here a little bit if you'd like, Dave, but I wanted to throw them at you and kind of take your temperature. So it's 5 questions. We'll go one at a time. Just kind of about where the future of the Steelers are, and you know what do you think is going to happen. Now I know this is all speculation, and you're going to say these are tough questions, and that's all completely understood. I promise I won't hold you to it. But first question: will Big Ben ever win another Super Bowl in Pittsburgh?
I mean,
yes or no?
I
know. If you had to guess, I mean, I had to answer him, so I'll give my answer too, and people can yell at me.
I mean, the odds tell you no.
I went no too.
The safe bet is just say no.
Yeah, I went no too, because Tom Brady's still going to be playing for probably 2 to 3 more years. You got the young quarterbacks coming up, and the Steelers aren't trending in the right direction. So I went no. Okay, so second question. Will Big Ben be the Steelers starting quarterback in 2022, his age 40 season? Yes or no?
Let's see, what are we in? 19,
yeah.
20, 21.
2022. Will he start that year at age 40?
No.
I went no either. I said he's going to retire at the end of 2021, so he'll play till he's 39. That's my guess. 3. Will Mason Rudolph ever become the Steelers' starting quarterback for an entire season?
Let's see. 19, 20, 21. If Ben resigns, the odds of that go down extremely. You would have to get into a Garoppolo situation where maybe you're deciding of what to do with Ben and Rudolph on a second contract. So, I mean, the odds would tell you to answer no on this.
Okay, I went yes, but I didn't think about it too much in terms of those contract terms. But
I mean, he signed a four-year contract,
which takes him to 2021, right?
Let's see, 18, 19, 20, 21, right.
Yeah, so I had been retiring at the end of 2021, so I guess there's some internal logic conflict with my answer, but I still think they'll find a way.
I mean, you would have to sign, you would have to, A, know you have enough there, and B, sign him to a somewhat decent contract to keep him. I mean, you're not going to tag him, you wouldn't think.
No.
Right? After his 4th season, you're not tagging him. At that point, you would think, unless you've seen enough out of him for some reason with Ben getting hurt. So, I mean, to me, the safe answer is no there, even though, I mean, and if that's the case, then makes you really wonder why you spent a 3rd-round draft pick on him a year after spending a 4th round on Dobbs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, they view Rudolph as a first-round guy, and it would be surprising to see a first-round evaluation not get that chance. Now, again, it could not happen because of what happens with Ben. I mean, obviously no one knows there, but that's why I went yes. 4th question. And this is kind of with the first, but 4th question. Will Mike Tomlin ever win another Super Bowl in Pittsburgh?
I think his time is going to be short in Pittsburgh just because of his boys. I think he's going to want to step away from the game.
You think?
From for a little bit personally, and it's just a gut feeling.
I'm not sure I'm there. I think he's talked about how big of a football junkie he is and how he's got no other hobbies. So I think he sticks it out as long as they let him.
I think he's tied. I think he's tied a lot to Roethlisberger. So I would say. I would say if I answer no to the Roethlisberger one, that I'd have to answer no to this one.
Right.
Just because I'm having a hard time visioning Tomlin still being the coach like 5 years from now.
Yeah.
Just because of how long he's already been the coach and how long Cowher was a coach and this, that, and the other.
Sure, that's why I said no, too. Because if he's not winning it with Ben, I mean, just, on that alone, how hard is it going to be to win with somebody else? You got to find that guy and then get to that level. And then also, if you have Ben playing 3 more years, in my scenario he is, and he doesn't win a Super Bowl, then how many more years is Tomlin going to be coaching, just in general, beyond that, and still have a chance to win a Super Bowl? So that's why I went no as well. Final question. Will Keith Butler be the D coordinator in the 2020 season? So not this year, next year when his contract is up.
Yeah, I have a hard time imagining he's going to have much longer of a career as a defensive coordinator. So I would answer no.
Yeah, I think the Steelers tend to go towards the non-renewal of guys on contracts. So I think Butler's done after this year, but I thought he was done after this year. So we'll see what happens. So you went no for all 5. No to Ben winning a Super Bowl. No to Ben being a quarterback in 2022. No to Rudolph starting a season. No to Tomlin winning a Super Bowl. No to Butler being D coordinator.
Well, I mean, that's the odds tell you that's probably the best way to go. I mean, only one team can win a Super Bowl every year.
Yeah, and to be fair, some of those questions are kind of tied to the other. Like Ben and Tomlin winning a Super Bowl are kind of joined at the hip.
Yeah. And I guess it's a depressive view out of us. Hey, here's the thing that I will say every time about the Steelers in a Super Bowl: if you have a franchise quarterback, and they do in Ben, you have a shot at winning the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
End of story.
Yep.
And look at the quarterbacks that were in the playoffs again this year. I mean, are guys like Goff and are guys like Mahomes are these guys that we expect maybe to make appearances in the playoffs every year? At some point, you're not going to have Tom Brady or Drew Brees in here, and Roethlisberger for that fact.
Well, that's the problem. Is you might not have Brees or Brady, but you won't have Ben either. So
right.
That's the tough part.
And the thing is did you where was the overlap in a guy like Rudolph and is the next franchise quarterback? I mean, you just don't know. That's why, for all those years about the Cleveland Browns, when I talked on this podcast, I said, man, if you don't have a franchise quarterback, I would be drafting 2 a year and until I got one. Because, until you have one, you don't have one.
Yep. Who's going to play longer, Brady or Ben? Because Brady said this Super Bowl is not his last game, which does not surprise me in the least. It's crazy that's even a question, because since Brady's 41, but I'm kind of leaning Brady, just because he's an insane robot, I'm convinced.
And look, I mean, as long as they surround him by smart talent, they win so much on scheme, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Sure.
I mean, how much does that whole team win on scheme? Now, granted, you have to have a guy. The thing that makes Tom Brady so great is he's seen it and he's done it and he knows what he's looking at 100% on every play. Now, if you surround him with people that also see and recognize the same thing, a la Gronk, and Gronk comes off as this buffoon, whatnot, but that I'll tell you what, he knows, he studies enough to know what he sees, and he's on the same page with Brady, and so is Julian Edelman, and bless his heart, to some degree, I guess, Cordell Patterson. I never thought those words would have ever come out of my mouth either, but I know it's kind of weird to say this Patriots team is kind of the worst one that we've seen in several years from a talent-wise standpoint, but it just goes to show you how much better the coaching is as well, too. Their defense is actually their defense might be one of the better ones that they've had in the last couple of years. And their offense, I mean, they're able to move the football, and they're able to do it with passes 10 yards or shorter. And they're able to do it with a running game as far as knowing where the bubble is, to run at, and counting the guys in the box, and knowing that they can out execute in number situations, and that's what makes them so damn good. I mean, and you boil it down to the way they play the game. They play it the way they're supposed to, and I know that sounds so cliche, but I mean that's why I think they got to be the favorites to win next Sunday.
So to the question of Brady versus Ben, Are you going Brady playing longer?
Yeah, barring injury or him
Okay.
just getting bored with it. I mean, yeah.
Okay. I think that's totally possible. That's kind of where I'm leaning too, just because Brady's crazy. The best.
You know what? They got to separate all this. If you legitimately want a good shot at the Steelers to win the Super Bowl in the next 3 years, they got to get rid of all the BS out of there. However you want to frame me just saying that and executing it, you got to get it done. And Ben has got to become an even better leader than what he's been. And that's not me trying to take a shot at him. It's just the truth.
Yeah.
They have, as much as I don't look forward to it. I'm getting on a little soapbox here. I think you got to get Antonio Brown out of there. As much as I don't look forward to that, I think you got to get him out of there now. I think no way do they need to bring Le'Veon Bell back whatsoever. And they need to get this defense better because they're not going to. If you get rid of if Brown and Bell are not back, that's going to make your offense suffer to some degree. We'll see what that degree is. You're not going to be able to throw the ball 40 times a game, like it or not, even though Ben will probably still want to try to do that. You're going to have some semblance of be able to run the way the Patriots run and run more successful early in games that I've talked about all this past season. And you're going to have better play out of your defense. And right now, there's nothing to make us think that the defense will be much better than it was this past season. There's just not. We'll see what the draft brings us. We'll see what the free agency brings us. But, they played great against subpar teams. They didn't play outside of the Patriots a game. They were kind of so-so against those other high-power offenses. All I care about when a season gets underway is how they play against some of the better quarterbacks because I expect them to beat the Tyrod Taylors,
Ryan Fitzpatricks,
the Ryan Fitzpatricks, like it or not, the Cam Newtons. I expect them to beat those. How can the defense rise to the occasion in those other situations? Because as much of an offensive game as this is now, I've said it time and time again, you need your defense to be able to win games when they count. Off of soapbox.
So I might get you back on it here. So be careful with trading AB. Obviously I get that argument entirely, but are you confident they can replace his on-field production and value in a couple of years, in 1 to 2 years, with Ben's window closing?
You have to replace elements of it.
What does that mean?
Well, you have to be able to redistribute the time. You're not going to recreate the same play. I think trying to find the player.
Well, I didn't say that. I said just can you replace his production and value on the field? That doesn't have to come from one guy. I'm saying, are you confident you can do that?
I think you can come close to it enough where if your defense is better, you're going to win games.
Yeah, I mean, possibly, but I just want people to understand. I know it's kind of obvious, but also kind of not, how much of a hit this offense is going to take without Antonio Brown. You saw what happened in the Bengals game. This offense was in the tank, and that might be because of some of the drama and obviously, trying to deal with it throughout the week and AB's absence kind of being a last-second thing. But just understand how tough it's going to be. It's going to be just a grind to try to fix it.
Right. I mean, well, when you take away a guy that's bracketed, almost every play.
Yeah.
I mean that defense is able to go and provide occasional brackets to a guy like JuJu and look, I mean, you obviously got to get better play out of James Washington. I mean,
right.
you need triple what you got out, quadruple what you got out of him this past season. You're going to need another guy in there, whether it be a draft pick or a free agent or somebody that can give you at least 30 to 40 catches in there. You're going to have to probably rely on a guy like Vance McDonald a little bit more. You're obviously going to have to use your backs out of the backfield a little bit more. And on top of that, the defense has got to be some of your best offense on top of it. And it goes back to me talking about providing the shorter fields at times for the offense. You cannot expect a AB less offense to drive the field as many times as they was asked to drive the field this past season. That's for sure, because you're not going to be able to do it.
Right, and I mean, you said everyone has to step up, but sure, everyone has to step up, but can they get to that level? I mean, basically, defenses play with 9 guys, because 2 of them are covering AB, and so you have one-on-one matchups everywhere else, and that makes JuJu better, that makes Vance better, that makes everyone else better. So yes, those guys have to step up if AB's gone, but it's going to be a lot harder for them to do so, because the attention's not going to go back on them. I
mean, you are not... yeah, he's hard. I mean, it's a Captain Obvious statement to say he's going to be hard to replace AB.
Well, that's why I said it's sort of obvious, but I think people need to understand how difficult it is going to be to replace him. Because yes, I think everyone knows, it's going to be tough to replace AB, but again, it is going to be almost mission impossible to try to get to that level for a team that thrives and relies on its offense to drive that bus. Because the defense, it might improve for 2019, but it's not going to drive the bus. So this offense has to be the main cog here, and if it's not, then you have an offense that can't move the football well enough and a defense that can't get enough stops, and that's not a good outlook.
If you're a person sitting here that doesn't think that AB is going to be a loss after all these plays that he's made these last 6-7 years, shame on you. But on the same token, I'd much rather attack the season without AB than I would without Ben.
Well, yeah, I don't think no one's making that argument. I mean, obviously,
some will try. I think.
Well,
I mean, there's
low-hanging fruit.
But look, I mean, but even with AB in, and I don't know how we went down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's not bad.
I mean, look, all the drama that AB brings in this thing, it makes it tough to win anyway.
Yes. Like I said, that's why when I phrased the question of replacing AB, I said from an on-field production value standpoint. I mean, there's an argument to be made off the field that just sense of relief of, okay, the drama's gone. And that's a perfectly fine argument to make. But there is an on-field component that I know we all know. And yes, even the guy that hates AP knows it's a loss, but I just want to make it very clear how big of a loss. Like, it's monumental to lose him, and replacing him is not going to be a quick thing. And like you said, it's not going to come from one guy.
I think too, and people say, why does it seem every year it's something with drama with this team? Well, yeah, it is. Does that stem from coaching? Partly, yes. Does it stem from leadership inside that locker room with the veterans and guys like Roethlisberger? Yes, it does. They all got to get better. People say, blame the media. The Pittsburgh media is a lot different. They do a better job at creating all this drama. That's BS. The media in Pittsburgh is no better. In fact, it's worse than what you probably find in several NFL cities.
But I don't blame the media for this. I think it's just reporting some actual issues.
Right, you're going to go after, and look, Ben gives the low-hanging fruit on his radio show at times, and these guys with their actions off the field help provide this as well too. So don't give them anything to write about.
Mm.
If you give them the only thing to write about is wins, that winning cures everything, as the old adage says. So I mean, it is disturbing, I guess, if this is kind of turned into a State of the Steelers address, if you will. It is disturbing with or without AB right now.
And that's the scariest thought, isn't it? It's bad if he's gone. It's bad if he's here. And I think that's why we answered the question of will this team win the Super Bowl with Ben as no, because it's not looking the best.
But I think that's the easy answer. Do I think?
Oh, sure.
But do you think they can win?
Yes, because as we said, if you have Ben, you have a shot.
So people probably, I don't know, people probably got their ropes out by now.
We went from who's going to play longer, Ben or Brady, to this. We went down that rabbit hole in a whole other dimension. So, all right, good discussion there. I don't want to spend more time than we already have on it. Dave, before we get to our emails, reader emails, you guys send it in again. Let's talk about our friends over at MyBookie with a big week coming up.
Yeah, that's right. The NFL playoffs are here, Alex, and especially, Super Bowl. It's here. The week is here. What did you think about the send-off that the Patriots got the other day? Do you think the next time, hopefully in our lifetime or in my lifetime, that the Steelers are sent off to the Super Bowl? Do you think we'll see a send-off that grand?
Well, maybe not quite like that because isn't Boston bigger than Pittsburgh, but it'll be big. It'll be a nice send-off.
All right, maybe that'll be a good problem to have also.
Yeah.
But anyway, the Super Bowl is here, and it's time to get in on with the action with mybookie.ag. Don't be that guy or girl with no rooting interest this year, with your relatives or friends sitting around watching the big game. Not this year, when the 53rd Super Bowl is now right around the corner, less than 1 week away. It really is the most wonderful time of the year. All the prop bets that are out there, Lord, I mean, there's everything imaginable you can bet on ahead of this game. Make sure you're ready for the daily action by signing up at mybookie.ag today. They pay fast when you win. Ownership really cares about good customer service, and they offer the craziest props around. Just go on their site and look. Where you bet is just as important as who you're betting on. And if you want to make money during the Super Bowl, you got to go to mybookie.ag. I trust them. I've used them, but you don't have to take my word for it. Check them out for yourself. Join now, and mybookie.ag will offer you a 50% bonus to make sure you have a nice bankroll for the Super Bowl. In order to get that and take advantage of that offer, go to mybookie.ag, sign up, and use promo code TERRIBLE when you deposit to activate the offer. That's promo code TERRIBLE at mybookie.ag. You play, you win, you get paid.
All right, Dave. What are the people saying? What are they yelling about at you this week?
Let's see here. Listener email. Caleb Winterburn writes in, last week I asked if you would swap Switzer for a more explosive returner if given a chance. Despite the consistency Switzer returning next year would bring. Dave said yes, but Alex didn't say anything. I'm curious what's Alex's thoughts on the matter. Now 2 follow-up questions. In your opinion, should the Steelers be looking for another returner to challenge Switzer this offseason? And number 2, if the Steelers do find a better returner in 2019, what would Switzer's role become? He says he likes the kid, of course, but honestly, he thinks Eli Rogers is a better slot receiver. Eli Rogers is a better receiver down the field. I think as far as within that first 4 or 5 yards off the line, I think Switzer might be the better option there. You always have to look for a better return option, I think. I don't think Switzer, just because what Switzer did last year, he should be automatically be viewed as a stone-cold lead pipe lock to make the 53 in 2019. Now, is he an odds-on favorite too? Absolutely. But I don't think that you should go into this thing looking that you can't upgrade him.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on Rodgers versus Switzer, and to the point about return man. Yeah, I mean, I'm open to someone. If someone's better, hey, I'm all for it. Now, am I going to spend much capital in trying to find that replacement? No, probably a UDFA, and that's it. And if a guy wants to come in and compete, and he surprises me the way that Stephon Logan did, a decade ago, then yeah, we'll have that conversation. So, am I open to it? Sure, but I'm not going to be spending a draft pick or someone specifically to fill that role. If somebody comes in and fills it, then more power to him.
All right, from Artie Avionitis. Artie, I'm sorry. No, it's Avlonitis. People are getting where they're adding the phonetic spelling of their names. That's awesome. That really helps a guy out like me. Artie Avlonitis writes in, love what you guys do. Do you have any recommendations for podcasts, websites, radio shows where I can get my other non-Steelers NFL news? Tired of all the hacks out there. He says, hello, Florio. Even better, maybe you guys can do a Tuesday, Thursday show on the rest of the NFL. You're not busy, right? Yeah, we don't get busy at all. Look, we try to cover as much maybe non-Steelers news as we can during the remainder of the season. I tell you what, as far as other shows and websites and whatnot, I don't know where to lead you there, but if you don't have serious NFL radio, you're doing it wrong. You really are. There's especially I think Pat Kerwin and Jim Miller do a great job on their show, and I think really all the shows overall on throughout the offseason as well too. NFL Sirius Radio is a way, if you have time to listen during the day or whatnot, or I think they archive all their shows as well too. That's the way I would go. I can't imagine being a NFL fan and not having it if I'm on the go and I don't get to spend as much time as Alex and I do in our mom's basement.
Yeah, I don't listen to a ton of stuff outside of, Depot stuff. I would say The Ringer has some good content, some good podcasts as well that goes more broadly into the NFL. So that's probably what I would suggest, but I don't have a great answer for you because I don't go super crazy with outside stuff, to be honest.
And I don't either. Look, we're on Twitter all day, so we see the stuff, and that's how we get educated. If you will.
Honestly, if you don't have a Twitter account, get a Twitter account, and that's going to be your way of just keeping up with the news.
Yeah, and you got to learn how to not get sucked down the rabbit holes on there. Anyway, all right. Travis Pick writes in, for years we haven't been able to draft a corner until today. I always looked at this from a draft perspective. Could our coaching at corner be better? Keep forcing system on players in issue as could keep forcing system on players be an issue as well. Two sides to every story situation. Look, I mean, I put this on Twitter yesterday during the Pro Bowl there. Xavier Howard was drafted like 13 spots after the Steelers drafted Artie Burns. Granted, you're not going to find the odds of finding stud corners after the third round. I mean, that's tough to do. I mean, you can't do it. I mean, look at the Patriots. They have two undrafted corners playing in their sub packages, right?
Jonathan Jones and is that one of them? Jonathan Jones?
Yeah, Jonathan Jones, and who's the other one? Jackson, or I'm drawing a blank on
J.C. Jackson. I don't think he was undrafted. Was he undrafted?
I think he was, wasn't he? Pull it up.
He was undrafted. You're right. Yeah, good call.
So you can find it out there. And look, we just talked about the Steelers playing more man coverage. Does the coaching need to be better? Probably. Yes. I mean, Ray Horton got a lot out of the talent that he had, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, how could anyone say no? The coaching is perfect with the results they're getting. Now, is it all coaching? No, but can the coaching get better? Sure, and I think that's why they brought in Terrell Austin to help out Tom Bradley, to help divide the labor, because the secondary's become so specialized that it's hard to have just one guy handle everything from dime backers to slot guys to outside, the safety, and all the different packages and all the different kind of niche positions that are forming in the secondary. So I think it is smart to have not only two guys, the way that they've divvied up the offensive line in the past between Munchak and Surratt, but now to do the same in the secondary and to hire a guy like Austin, who is kind of a secondary specialist, with Bradley, who's brand new to the NFL last year.
All right, George Herreras writes in, hey guys, my name is George from Virginia. I'm a long-time listener who can't get enough of Dave speculating about groins. Yes, I had to speculate about a knee with JuJu. My question, what is your top 3 criteria for evaluating an edge rusher? This has fluctuated for me in recent years. Spark scores seem important, but also got us to Dupree. I think in combo, Ben counters and production should help us be a fit for the Steelers. Thanks and keep up the great work. I think Ben has a lot to do with it. You'd like to see You'd like to be able to see them turn the corner in some semblance and be able to get an arm out and affect a play and not get stuck on the corner. And that's one thing that we saw from Jarvis Jones, I think, dating back, or not Jarvis, Bud Dupree, dating back to his college film and really Jarvis Jones as well, too. Yeah, what do these guys do when their speed doesn't win to the outside? Mm-hmm. Because you're going to get that a lot in the NFL, and that's one of the things that Polite. What happens to Polite when he doesn't win off the edge? Can he counter back inside? Does he got fight? Can he win outside of winning off the outside? I think that's one of the things. That's why I think the sack reels are not everything, but it's a good place to start with these guys. How did they win? Did they win running around the edge all the time? Or did they win with speed and power? Did they win with hand usage? When they didn't win, were they able to counter and maybe get a pressure and push the quarterback out of the pocket where someone else won in that instance? So you want to see some degree of athleticism, but we've seen some not so athletic guys win in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, for me, you don't have to have 20 different rush moves to be an effective pass rusher. You really just need to have two. And, some of the best pass rushers of this era are great examples of that. James Harrison won with two moves, his bull rush and his rip. That's all he needed. Bull rush to the outside, or rip to the outside, and then bull rush is that power move to kind of counter back in. Dwight Freeney, speed and spin. Tackle sit on that speed rush, he'll spin to the inside. So if you're going to have two really good rushes, you can be successful, but you do need to have two. Because if you only have one, tackles are going to sit on it, and they're going to force you to win another way, and you're going to struggle.
Another thing, and I pulled up, posted an old, a couple when Kevin Green was hired by the Jets to be their outside linebacker coach. He was asked some of the three main things that makes a great outside linebacker in a 3-4. You got to be able to play the run. Like it or not, you got to be able to play the run.
Yep.
And you got to be able to set the edge. So, it's nice at looking at some of these guys from an edge rusher perspective, but make no mistake about it. If you're going to play in this front four for the Steelers, you got to be able to set the edge. And one thing I think that maybe Bud doesn't get enough credit for is he does play the run reasonably well, right?
Yeah, he does play it well. And I saw somebody say he's not an effort player. I think he's a good effort player. I don't know what your take is on that. I think that's not the issue. I think there's just been issues with him staying healthy and him finding multiple ways to win.
And I think from the pass rushing aspect with Dupree, that's where you're most upset with the lack of production there. And look, I mean, James Harrison didn't win on every play. James Harrison didn't get you 2 sacks every game. But he would provide in you want to see these guys win in key situations too.
Oh yeah, that's what Bud has to do.
And that's one aspect there. So I mean, there's a lot of things I think that you got to look for when you look at some of these edge rushers. Let's see. Bill Effringham writes in, love the shows, love the longer shows and the listener questions. What is really the chance of getting Kevin Green? I think we're going to be watching this next week or so when the Jets finalize their coaching staff. There's a lot of speculation going on that because they're going to a 4-3 with Greg Williams, because they've already supposedly hired another, I guess one of the linebackers coach followed, what's his name, from Miami to the Jets, and because I think Greg Williams' son is possibly going to be on this coaching staff as well too. There's a lot of speculation that Kevin Green's going to be out in New York, and if that's the case, I think that really opens up the possibility of Kevin Green being the guy. Now, there was also this other report that I read out here that Kevin Green's got to have the hip replacement surgery done or something this offseason. That's priority number one. Maybe that's why it's taking so long for the Steelers maybe to name a replacement. Maybe they're waiting to see what's going to happen with Kevin Green and his health and everything along those lines. So as far as giving you a % chance, I mean, I don't know for sure. But I think a lot of it revolves around whether or not Kevin Green's back with the Jets. And if he's not, I mean, how can you not hire that guy?
Yeah, I mean, like we said before, it would make a lot of sense. And, it would certainly be helpful. So wouldn't think we'll get our answer, I think, by the end of this week, wouldn't you?
I would think within the next 2 weeks, probably.
Yeah, at least the latest 2 weeks.
Right, because their combine's right around the corner and all like that. Doug Walter writes in, I've seen a lot of draft projections that have Devin White as a first-round pick and Mac Williams as a second-round pick. I know you don't like to get hung up on whether a player will be drafted too high or too low, but do you think that it's likely the Steelers to invest 2 high-round draft picks at the same position of need? Yikes.
I'd say no.
Yeah, I'd say no.
Not first, second like that. You only need one inside linebacker because generally with the way the Steelers are playing, you might only have one on the field most times next year. And with Vince and with Ford, I think you have enough of a group there if you add a kind of a top-tier playmaker.
And I don't know enough about either one of those players, yes, to say, slam dunk this, that, top 20, what have you. So give me a little bit more time on that. I don't know. What do you feel about those two players?
I think Mac Wilson dropping to the Steelers' second-round pick is unlikely, so I would disagree with that. Now, he might fall maybe late first, early second, but I don't think he would get to, would that be pick 55? Like, whatever the second-round pick is, I don't think he falls that far.
All right, Eric Johnson writes in, once again, thanks for the great work and a great podcast. Dave's in-depth look at the cap answered a lot of questions. This isn't a fire Tomlin question or anything like that. I just want to see both your thoughts on Tomlin quote-unquote, fix the locker room. It sounds like there have been reports giving players long releases. Eric, I think we answered a lot of that early in the show. They got to do something different. I tell you that. Interesting to see how things go. With if a guy like AB's not in that locker room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add. I think we covered that earlier.
Let's see. There was one, and I'm trying to find it, and I can't, but I remember the gist of it. I wanted to ask what our first Steeler jerseys that we bought were. Look, I'm much older than Alex, and when I was growing up, all we had as a kid, and I did not grow up, anywhere near Pittsburgh, so all we had was the Sears and Roebuck catalog, and they were, I guess, officially licensed NFL gear at the time, but they didn't look anything, they weren't exact replicas of player jerseys. But they looked like football jerseys, and the two that I had were both Terry Bradshaw number 12 and Franco Harris number 32. Now it wasn't like you could buy, just any players, like you had today, and they did not, to my recollection, have the player's name on the back either. Back then, so I think it had it was obviously a football jersey of some sort. It had the player's number, and it also had Steelers or whatever NFL team that you got. It had the name on the front as well too. And I think I'm trying to remember if it was actually the font, the proper font back then. It doesn't seem like it was, but my jersey. I've never been big into buying jerseys. Let me put it to you that way. But that was my first recollection of buying jerseys. Now, other gear like book bags and hats and stuff like that, that was more my speed. But I was never a big into buying the jerseys and all. Plus, I couldn't afford them when I was growing up. I mean, if it meant smoking and having weed or alcohol, I went that route.
Oh, there's an answer you don't usually get from what was your first Steelers jersey.
I'm honest, right?
Points for that. I thought you had the 1933 jerseys. Wasn't that your first jersey?
No, I'm not that old.
The first day. No, I think you did. You had Angelo Bravelli, I think was your
No, I'm not at that old. I was a kid of the 70s.
Yeah, I was never big on jerseys. I haven't bought a jersey in forever, which I think it's just they're so expensive. But I've had 3 in my lifetime. I think the first one I ever got was Willie Parker. So I had a Parker, a Ben, and then, as I think some of you guys know, my Chidi Iwoma jersey, which I still cherish very much, signed by Chidi Iwoma. So probably the only one, unless their last name is Iwoma, that has a Chidi jersey. But those are the 3. But yeah, I had a bunch of Steelers, like book bags and posters and stuff like that, but never super big on the jerseys.
In today's NFL with the free agency and just think about these people that bought Le'Veon Bell jerseys or Antonio Brown jerseys within the last few years or something along those lines, how they feel right now. I mean, those things go into a closet, and how many times will they come in? I think I've never been fond of jerseys because of the way players move on and stuff like that. But I think today, if you were to be a jersey buyer, why not go old school?
Yep.
Why not get Joe Green or Jack Lambert or Ernie Stautner or Lynn Swann or John Stallworth or something along those lines? Something that is never going to go. People are not going to ridicule you for wearing to a game or something like that. I grew up during the time of sports collectibles, baseball cards and football cards when they were big. So I shouldn't say that I didn't spend money on it, but a lot of my money up as a kid up through kind of pre-teens, I guess you would say, was spent on baseball cards and football cards and along those lines. I think if I was a memorabilia collector today or a Steelers fan and wanted to collect memorabilia or something along those lines, I think I'd get a football every year, an NFL regulation football. I would go to training camp, and I would get as many signatures as I could on that football, and then go from there. I think that's what I would do as a collector this year, or some sort of pictures of players and autographed that way. But I think if I was a collector of Steelers memorabilia in today's day and age, I think every year I would go to 3 or 4 training camp practices, and I would take a NFL regulation football and one black Sharpie, and I think I'd get as many Steelers players to autograph that as possible, and then I'd have that thing put in glass, and I'd do that every year. That personally, that's the way I would do it.
That's sort of what I'm rocking. Not really in a collector standpoint, because they're just kind of sitting in the open. But I've got a closet full of hats and footballs of my years of training camp getting autographs. Now they're from people like, I'm looking at a hat right now. There's a Darnell Stapleton autograph, a John Drecker, I think, autograph. I do have a Heinz Ward and Ike Taylor, but probably not worth too much. But yeah, that's the way to go for sure, is to do something like that. And I was always a jersey snob. Like, you had to have the legit, authentic, through and through kind of jersey, especially with the yellow armband. It has to go the whole way around. You can't just have the half band around the sleeve. So if you were going to go jersey, you had to go full out, and those things weren't cheap.
Yeah, and I was never a snob that way. But here, another thing that I kind of started to get into, and money prevented it, and of course not being around players prevented it as well too. The old, the mini helmets, and getting those. If you have 3 or 4 stars, on the team that you're going to be talking about for years or something like that. One of those little mini replica helmets signed, I think, is a great way to go. I just never was big on the jersey aspect of it. And really, I don't, be honest with you, I don't wear. I have a new Steelers hat, but it's a camo one. One that I picked up at Walmart and all, just because I don't. Sometimes I need to run out of the house and I haven't jumped in the shower. I need to put a hat on my head, kind of thing. But other than that, I'm not a big memorabilia guy now.
Yeah, I guess I've kind of fallen off on that a little bit too. But it was a good question though. Yeah, that was good to reminisce.
And I forget even who to give credit to on that, because I don't have it pulled up here. But anyway, that should wrap up the questions this time around. We'll be back on Wednesday. We'll start previewing the Super Bowl a little bit more. On Friday, we'll talk a little bit more about Super Bowl and Super Bowl props. We'll go over some more listener questions as well too. We'll see if we have anything more to report about JuJu's knee or anything along those lines. We'll talk more draft prospects. At some point, we're going to click down into 2 shows a week, probably or most definitely going to happen after the Super Bowl happens. So be aware of that. We're probably going to go to a Tuesday and Friday schedule on that. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do, want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit that donate button, upper right navigational bar. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.